We have all been taught the same story since elementary school. Islands are either volcanic, built by magma punching through the ocean floor like Hawaii, or they are continental fragments that broke away from larger land masses like Madagascar. But what if we told you there is a place where neither of these rules applies? A place where rocks from 6 kilometers beneath the ocean floor have been thrust above sea level. A place where you can literally hold a piece of the Earth's mantle in your hands. This is Macquarie Island, and it breaks every geological rule ever written in the textbook. You have probably seen those stunning documentaries about remote islands. Crystal blue waters, gentle breezes, exotic wildlife living in perfect harmony with nature. Well, forget everything you think you know about isolated island ecosystems, because what we are about to show you will shatter every romantic notion you have ever had about life at the edge of the world. At 54 degrees 30 minutes south latitude, there sits a tiny sliver of land that researchers have nicknamed 54 degrees south of ordinary. Macquarie Island measures just 34 kilometers long and 5.5 kilometers wide at its broadest point. To put that in perspective, you could walk its entire length in a single day if the weather did not try to kill you first. Getting here requires a 3 to 4 day voyage from Hobart across waters that have earned terrifying nicknames from sailors over the centuries. There is no harbour waiting for you at the destination. There is no dock. There is certainly no airport. When your ship finally arrives, you climb into a small inflatable boat called a Zodiac and fight through the swells just to reach shore. And when you finally drag yourself onto the beach, exhausted and completely soaked, you might discover a 4,000-kilogram elephant seal has claimed that exact spot as his bed for the afternoon. The weather statistics sound like they were invented by a screenwriter, creating the most inhospitable setting possible for a disaster film. The island receives only 3.5 clear days per year. Let that number sink in for a moment. Out of 365 days, the sun properly shines on fewer than 4 of them. Measurable rain falls on 317 days annually, leaving roughly 48 days without precipitation. Those 48 days are not sunny, though. They are simply slightly less wet than the others. Average daily sunshine clocks in at just 2.4 hours, dropping to a pathetic 36 minutes in June. The temperature data reveals something genuinely strange. Summer averages hover around 7 degrees Celsius, while winter sits around 4 degrees. The entire difference between the hottest and coldest seasons amounts to just 3 degrees. The Bureau of Meteorology has maintained continuous records for 78 years, and during that time, the highest temperature ever recorded was 17 degrees on February 8, 2022. The lowest was negative 9.4 degrees on July 3, 2003. Then there is the wind, which might be the single most relentless feature of this environment. On September 24, 1980, instruments recorded a gust of 185 kilometers per hour, putting it firmly in Category 3 hurricane territory. The island experiences 268 days per year with strong or gale-force winds. Expeditioners describe arriving as being wind-blasted from the very moment they step off the boat. The constant roar of the Southern Ocean crashing against basalt cliffs creates an unforgettable wall of sound. Despite these brutal conditions that would send most humans running for the nearest heated shelter, something extraordinary happens on this island every single year. The Roaring 40s and Furious 50s. More than 3.5 million seabirds descend on Macquarie Island annually, joined by approximately 80,000 elephant seals who haul themselves onto the beaches to breed. These animals treat this windswept, rain-lashed rock like prime beachfront property. The obvious question is why? Why would millions of creatures choose one of the most consistently miserable environments on the entire planet? The answer requires understanding the island's unique geographical position on the globe. Macquarie Island floats within latitude bands that sailors have cursed for centuries. Between 40 and 50 degrees south, lies the zone called the Roaring Forties. Between 50 and 60 degrees south, where Macquarie sits, conditions intensify into what mariners named the Furious Fifties. These names were not chosen for dramatic effect. They describe ferocious westerly winds that circle Antarctica without encountering any landmass to slow them down. Between 40 and 60 degrees south, there is almost no land anywhere on the planet. South America tapers to a point. Australia and New Zealand sit too far north. Antarctica begins too far south. This geographical quirk creates what oceanographers call infinite fetch, meaning winds can accelerate across thousands of kilometers of open water without anything interrupting their momentum. The Southern Ocean that results from these conditions is arguably the most violent body of water on Earth. Wave heights regularly exceed 10 meters in this region. During severe storms, rogue waves have been measured topping 30 meters, roughly equivalent to a 10-story building bearing down on your vessel. Here is where the science becomes counterintuitive. This violent ocean also functions as a massive thermal battery. The surrounding waters absorb heat during summer and release it during winter, buffering Macquarie Island against temperature extremes. Ocean temperatures remain between 3 and 5 degrees Celsius throughout the year, and the island's air temperature follows that same narrow range. Wildlife gathers here because Macquarie Island represents the only solid ground for thousands of kilometers in any direction. For seabirds and seals that require land to breed and raise their young, this tiny speck of rock is the equivalent of a luxury resort in the middle of nowhere. Over 850,000 breeding pairs of royal penguins call this island home, making it the largest colony of this species anywhere on Earth. Royal penguins breed nowhere else on the planet. This single island is their entire world. Add another 150,000 breeding pairs of king penguins, along with populations of gentoo and rockhopper penguins, and the total exceeds 1 million penguins crammed onto 34 kilometers of storm-battered coastline. But the wildlife, spectacular as it is, does not explain what makes Macquarie Island genuinely unique among all the places on Earth. This island exists because something impossible happened beneath the ocean floor. Every geology textbook explains island formation the same way. Volcanic islands like Hawaii form when magma rises and builds up layer after layer until mountains break through the ocean surface. Continental fragment islands like Madagascar form when pieces of larger land masses break away and drift to new positions over millions of years. Macquarie Island fits neither category. This island consists entirely of oceanic crust and upper mantle rocks. These are materials that should be buried beneath kilometers of seawater, hidden from human eyes forever. Instead, they sit here at the surface, exposed to the wind and rain and the boots of visiting scientists. Understanding why this matters requires knowing what lies beneath every ocean on Earth. At the top sits the seafloor itself, covered in layers of sediment. Below that lies basalt, the volcanic rock that erupts at mid-ocean ridges. Deeper still sits gabbro, a coarse-grained rock that cooled slowly in underground chambers. At the very bottom, 6 kilometers down, lies the mantle itself, composed of extremely dense rock called peridotite. Scientists who want to study these deep rocks normally face two options. They can organize drilling expeditions costing billions of dollars, or they can deploy deep-sea submersibles involving significant danger. Either approach yields only tiny samples from narrow boreholes. On Macquarie Island, you can simply walk outside and pick up a piece of the mantle with your bare hands. Geologists use the term ophiolite to describe a complete cross-section of oceanic crust and mantle exposed at the surface. Other ophiolites exist around the world. The Troodos Mountains in Cyprus contain one. The Samail ophiolite in Oman is perhaps the most famous example. However, all of these formations were scraped off ancient ocean floors during tectonic collisions millions of years ago. They represent fossils of oceans that no longer exist. Macquarie Island operates under completely different rules. Its ophiolite remains embedded within an active oceanic plate boundary. The rocks are still rising. The process continues happening right now as you read these words. The UNESCO citation captures the significance perfectly. Macquarie Island is the only place on Earth where rocks from the Earth's mantle, 6 kilometers below the ocean floor, are being actively exposed above sea level. In 1969, a geologist named Richard Vaughan from the University of Tasmania published a groundbreaking paper in the journal Science that changed our understanding of how the Earth works. What Vaughan discovered was that Macquarie Island is not just any island. It is the only place on Earth where rocks from 6 kilometers beneath the ocean floor are actively rising above sea level. The question that naturally follows is how? How does mantle rock end up above sea level in the middle of an ocean? Let's explain what that means, because it is absolutely mind-blowing. The Earth's oceanic crust is like a layer cake. At the top, you have seafloor sediments and volcanic rocks. Go deeper, and you hit massive layers of a rock called gabbro. Deeper still lies the mantle, the hot, dense material that makes up most of our planet's interior. Normally, the only way scientists can study this deep oceanic structure is through incredibly expensive deep-sea drilling projects that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Macquarie Island sits precisely on the collision zone, where the Indo-Australian plate grinds against the Pacific plate. This boundary ranks among the most geologically violent on Earth. Travel north from Macquarie Island and you encounter the Puisagur Trench near New Zealand, where the Australian plate dives beneath the Pacific plate at approximately 36 millimeters per year. The trench plunges more than 6,000 meters below sea level. But moving south toward Macquarie Island, the behavior transforms dramatically. The subduction stops. Instead, the plates slide past each other while being compressed together. Geologists describe rocks being squeezed toward the surface like toothpaste from a tube. This compression continues today, pushing the island upward at approximately 0.8 millimeters per year. Physical evidence appears everywhere. Ancient sea stacks that once stood in the ocean now sit hundreds of meters from the current coastline. Raised beach terraces have been discovered at altitudes reaching 270 meters above present sea level. On December 23, 2004, a magnitude 8.1 earthquake ruptured the region, ranking among the largest strike-slip earthquakes ever recorded in oceanic crust. The timing was eerie. This massive quake struck just 58 hours before the catastrophic Indian Ocean earthquake. Here is a detail that seems impossible. All 22 expeditioners stationed on Macquarie Island that night slept through the magnitude 8.1 earthquake. Nobody felt anything. Captain Frederick Hasselborough discovered the island on July 11, 1810. Within weeks, at least 6 ships departed Sydney to exploit the hunting grounds. The original fur seal population is estimated between 200,000 and 400,000 animals. Within 18 months, at least 120,000 were slaughtered. By 1820, fur seals had been driven to virtual extinction. The killing proceeded so thoroughly that scientists today cannot identify what species the original seals were. No specimens survive. Then came the penguins. A businessman named Joseph Hatch designed massive steam pressure digesters capable of processing thousands of birds at once. At peak production between 1905 and 1909, his operation killed 3,500 royal penguins every single day. An additional 500 birds were shoveled into fireboxes as fuel. Over 30 years, Joseph Hatch killed approximately 3 million penguins. Here is a twist that feels like poetic justice. Hatch died in 1928, and today his grave at Cornelian Bay Cemetery bears no headstone. The man who killed 3 million penguins lies in an unmarked grave. The campaign to stop Hatch united famous polar explorers, including Sir Douglas Mawson. Apsley Cherry Garrard wrote to the Times in 1919, "The penguin has won a little bit of affection from all of us because he snaps his flippers at the worst conditions in the world. If we do not help him now, we can never look him straight in the eyes again." In 1920, authorities cancelled Hatch's license. This became the first international wildlife conservation campaign. Humans also introduced cats, rats, mice, and rabbits. These drove the Macquarie Island parakeet, the world's most southerly parrot, to extinction by 1891. By the 1990s, rabbit populations exploded to 350,000, triggering massive erosion. In 2006, a landslide killed hundreds of king penguins. What happened next stands as one of the most ambitious conservation projects ever attempted. The Macquarie Island Pest Eradication Project launched in 2011. Eliminate every introduced mammal, every rabbit, every rat, every mouse. The project consumed $24.6 million Australian dollars. Operations required 4 helicopters, 250 tons of poison bait, 11 hunting dogs, and hundreds of personnel. Scientists released rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus, killing 80 to 90% of rabbits within weeks. Helicopters dropped bait across the entire island. Hunting dogs named Joker and Tama covered 90,000 kilometers tracking survivors. On April 8, 2014, Macquarie Island was declared pest-free. For the first time in 200 years, no introduced mammals walked on the island. The recovery has been astonishing. Vegetation biomass increased 5 to 10-fold. Grey petrels bred successfully for the first time in over a century. BirdLife Australia downlisted 8 seabird species in 2016. Today, approximately 20 to 30 expeditioners winter on Macquarie Island each year at the research station nicknamed Macquarie, which has operated continuously since 1948. The morning commute requires dodging penguins and navigating around sleeping elephant seals. There is no emergency evacuation possible during winter months. The station doctor handles everything completely alone. Meteorological observations spanning 78 continuous years make this one of the most valuable climate datasets in the Southern Hemisphere. UNESCO inscribed Macquarie Island as a World Heritage Site in 1997. Macquarie Island is geological proof that the Earth's interior can breach the surface in real time. It is a graveyard of extinct species and a battlefield between continental plates. It witnessed one of history's greatest industrial wildlife massacres, and then became one of conservation's most remarkable redemption stories. All compressed into 34 kilometers of storm-battered rock at the edge of the inhabitable world. The Australian government has committed $370 million over 9 years for a new research station, with construction planned for completion by 2032. Scientists continue to study the island's unique geology, its recovering ecosystems, and its role as a sentinel for climate change. This impossible place, 54 degrees south of ordinary, keeps revealing new secrets about our planet. Sometimes, the most hostile environments on Earth teach us the most important lessons about survival, destruction, and the possibility of recovery. What do you think? Could you survive a winter at 54 degrees south of ordinary? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and tell us which fact completely blew your mind.